Have you ever stared at your reflection and felt a quiet, gnawing disappointment? Like every choice you made led to a wall you couldn't climb. You try to move forward, but the weight of your mistakes pins you down. You replay the moments that slipped through your fingers, the doors you never opened, the chances you ignored. It's not just failure, it's the echo of your own expectations crashing against reality. You feel it in your chest, a persistent ache, a reminder that the world is moving and you're stuck. The nights are the hardest. Silence presses in and your mind becomes a battlefield. Every misstep you've taken replays like a relentless storm. You start asking yourself the questions you've avoided all day. Why me? Why now? Why can't I get it right? And each question digs a little deeper, opening cracks in your confidence, widening the gap between who you are and who you thought you'd be by now. The frustration is suffocating, and for a moment, you imagine giving up entirely, letting the weight win, letting the shame settle like dust in the corners of your life. And yet, there's a small voice, almost buried, that refuses to surrender. It whispers that this isn't the end, that failure doesn't define you unless you allow it to. You felt it before, that spark of resistance, even in your lowest moments, flickering quietly behind the despair. It's the part of you that remembers victory, even if only in fragments. It's the part that remembers hope. That spark isn't loud or dramatic. It doesn't shout or make promises. It simply exists, quietly persistent, reminding you that there is a way forward. You think back to the moments when you felt unstoppable. Maybe it was small, a compliment that lit your confidence for a day, a project that went better than expected, a fleeting moment where everything aligned. Those flashes aren't meaningless. They are proof that you have the ability to rise, even when it feels impossible. They are reminders that the person you see in the mirror is not a failure, but someone in progress, someone capable of learning, growing, and pushing through. Every failure you've endured has been teaching you something you didn't want to learn at the time. Pain, frustration, embarrassment, they are not enemies. They are signals, markers pointing toward growth. The world may have felt like it was against you, but in reality, the lessons were always there, embedded in each setback. The trick is learning to see them, to extract wisdom from discomfort instead of letting it crush you. You've spent so long fearing failure that you forgot it could be a guide, not a verdict. Now, imagine if you stopped seeing these moments as final judgments. Imagine if each mistake became a stepping stone instead of a pitfall. The tension in your chest, the gnawing in your mind begins to shift. Fear loses some of its weight because you understand that it doesn't hold the power you thought it did. The shame begins to fade as you realize it is not permanent. It is a visitor, not a resident. You begin to feel something unfamiliar, yet familiar, the stirring of possibility, a sense that perhaps, just perhaps, this struggle is not a sentence but a pathway. The truth is that no one starts at the summit. Every success you admire began with failure. Every person who seems untouchable has faced moments where the world whispered that they weren't enough. You are not alone in this battle. You are not the first, and you will not be the last. What matters is what you do in these moments, the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching, when the world seems indifferent. That is where transformation is born. And so as you sit with your frustration, your regret, your self-doubt, know this, the story does not end here. The pressure you feel, the ache you carry, is proof that you care. It is proof that you are alive in the arena, trying, failing, learning. The first step forward is acknowledging the weight, feeling it fully, and letting it teach you rather than define you. There is a path out of this heaviness, a way to rise stronger, sharper, and more certain than before. All it takes is the decision to refuse surrender, to embrace the lessons, and to trust that the next moment can be the beginning of everything you've been fighting for. The moment you accept that failure is not a verdict but a signal, everything begins to shift. Your mind, once crowded with doubt, starts clearing. You begin to see patterns, the hidden lessons tucked inside the moments you wish never happened. Every mistake becomes a message, every setback a map guiding you toward what truly matters. You start to understand that resilience isn't about avoiding pain, it's about stepping into it, staring it down, and refusing to be broken. You remember the times you hesitated, the chances you didn't take because fear whispered louder than your ambition. Now, those same moments ignite a fire. You realize that fear was never your enemy. It was a compass pointing to the edges of your comfort, urging you to stretch further than you thought possible. Every heartbeat that raced in panic, every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, it was all preparing you for the point where you finally decide to move forward. The stakes are higher, and suddenly the price of inaction becomes unbearable. The world doesn't wait. Opportunity doesn't linger for those who hesitate. You feel it in your bones, the urgency of now, the intensity of a life that refuses to pause. You start breaking down the walls you've built inside yourself, brick by brick. Doubt cracks open, shame loses its grip, and a new certainty begins to rise. It is raw, unpolished, demanding. It says you can be more than what you were yesterday. You can rewrite the story, and no one can stop the force of your will once it awakens. Every action, no matter how small, carries weight. You understand that progress is not about perfection, it's about persistence. One decision to try again, one refusal to surrender, compounds into momentum that cannot be ignored. The hesitation that once paralyzed you now fuels your determination. The very fear that haunted your nights becomes the engine driving your days. You begin to see the power you always had, hidden beneath layers of doubt, waiting to be claimed. And then you feel it, the surge of clarity that comes when the fog lifts. You realize that life doesn't hand out victories to the cautious or the timid. It favors the relentless, the ones willing to fall, learn, and rise again. You see that failure is not a punishment, but a privilege. It is proof that you are in the arena, testing limits, growing stronger with every attempt. Each scar, each bruise, each regret becomes evidence of effort, of courage, of life fully lived. You start moving differently. Your choices are sharper, your focus unwavering. The hesitation that once defined you dissolves. You act with a precision born from experience, from pain, from the refusal to accept anything less than your potential. Every step feels deliberate, purposeful, and unstoppable. The energy that once drained you now powers you. The lessons of the past fuse with the possibilities of the future, and suddenly the world feels like it is waiting for your move. You understand now that transformation doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the fire of discomfort, in the grind of relentless effort, in the moments when you push forward while everyone else steps back. The urgency you feel is the call of your own life demanding attention. You realize that the path forward requires courage, not certainty, action, not endless reflection. Each choice you make compounds, shaping a trajectory that fear and doubt can no longer derail. And in that awareness, a new kind of power rises. You feel unstoppable because you know what it means to fall, to face yourself, to rise anyway. The weight of failure is no longer a chain, but a catalyst. You embrace the pressure, harness it, and let it drive you to heights you never imagined. The world that once seemed indifferent now feels like a canvas waiting for your imprint. You understand that your story is still being written, and the pen is in your hands. Every heartbeat, every decision, every step forward is proof that failure is not the end. It is the beginning of something greater. Now that you've felt the power of rising despite failure, it's time to step into the reality that nothing waits for hesitation. Every second you waste doubting yourself is a second someone else is seizing opportunity. You can feel it, the pull of life demanding action, the tension between where you are and where you know you could be. The fear that once paralyzed you now becomes fuel, sharpening your instincts, igniting a fire that refuses to be ignored. The stakes are no longer abstract. They are tangible, pressing, real. Every choice, every movement carries consequences that ripple far beyond what you see. You begin to recognize the patterns that held you back, the excuses, the almost moments, the times you told yourself tomorrow would be different. And with that recognition comes power. Because once you see what has been sabotaging you, you can dismantle it. Every thought that says you're not enough, every voice in your head that whispers stop, can be silenced by deliberate action. You realize that the only real failure is inaction. The only true loss is giving up before the fight is finished. The urgency you feel is no accident. It's the universe, or perhaps your own inner voice, pushing you past complacency. You feel the weight of wasted potential pressing on your shoulders, and it stings because you know what you are capable of. That sting is not punishment, it's a compass pointing straight to what matters most. Every failure you've endured was not meant to break you. It was meant to prepare you, to test the depth of your resolve, to force the emergence of a strength you didn't know existed. You start moving differently. Small choices, repeated consistently, begin to shape a new reality. Each moment of focus, each refusal to quit, compounds into unstoppable momentum. You can feel it building beneath your skin, a current of purpose that makes hesitation feel foreign. Every challenge that once seemed insurmountable now becomes a stepping stone. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are an architect of possibility. The pressure you once feared now drives you forward with precision and intent. And then you feel it fully, the clarity that comes when persistence meets purpose. You realize that the path forward is not about avoiding pain or seeking comfort. It is about embracing struggle as the vehicle for growth. You understand that resilience is forged in the crucible of difficulty, sharpened by setbacks and amplified by the courage to rise every time you fall. Each failure, each mistake, each scar becomes evidence of your commitment, a reminder that you are living fully, not cautiously. There is a power in knowing you have endured, survived, and persisted. It transforms your perception. Fear loses its grip. Doubt shrinks in the face of determination. The world that once seemed indifferent now feels like a proving ground, a place where effort and courage are rewarded with transformation. You recognize that time is a currency you cannot waste, and every heartbeat carries the potential to move you closer to what you are meant to achieve. Your vision sharpens. You see beyond the immediate struggles, beyond the obstacles, to the person you are becoming. That person is unstoppable because they have been tested. They have felt despair and still chose action. They have faced failure and refused to be defined by it. They understand that life does not hand out victories to the passive, to the cautious, or to the undecided. It favors those who rise again and again, who fight when the world expects them to surrender, who take responsibility for their own destiny. And in that understanding, a new certainty emerges. You feel unstoppable because you have felt the depths of struggle and still stand. The failures that once weighed you down are now the pillars beneath your strength. The fire that once threatened to consume you is now the engine propelling you forward. Every choice, every action, every decision is proof that failure is not the end, but the beginning. You are no longer defined by what went wrong. You are defined by what you are willing to rise and do next. The world waits for no one. But now you are ready to meet it head on, relentless, unshakable, unstoppable.